here. We will start our meeting today. Tansy, big topic here.
It is an exciting one.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mayor, members of the council, I'm Tansy Hayward. I'm the Deputy City Manager. We're going to have a number of staff talking with you, updating the council and the community on efforts on the New Bern corridor, including Duplex Village, Zach's Grocery, and the DMV headquarters site. So I'm going to just start with a brief background, particularly for the community, to really give some perspective on how long some of these efforts have been in the making and the leadership that has been provided by the council over a long period of time that have brought us to the place that we are. We're going to do some brief project updates and talk about next steps for those three key projects on New Bern Avenue. So, where a lot of this work that we take for granted today started was in July of 2018. So there was a formal request by the council in 2018 asking city staff to start being very intentional about anticipating development that was going to be happening around our bus rapid transit corridors. You'll see, I'm not going to go through all of this, but there were a lot of specific directions in terms of work that the council wanted to see staff engage in. And you're going to see today, particularly work that manifested around priority sites for affordable housing, and then strategies and incentives and work amongst all of our transit land use and affordable strategies to make sure that those all had a relationship together. One of the key pieces of work that has guided a lot of our work was work that came to the council and was adopted in 2020. That was called the Equitable Development Around Transit Guidebook, and it really put in place some of the foundational work that we continue to work on today. You'll see that one of the key strategies that was identified as a part of that guidebook was land acquisition for affordable housing near our transit investments. In 2020, the council followed up with an affordable housing bond, and what came out of that was a bond spending plan that prioritized where to invest those bond resources. And you'll see that a pretty big percentage of that bond was set aside and allocated for site acquisition adjacent to transit. Now, this is clearly not the only funding source that we've been using for site acquisition. We've had federal funds, program income, and other sources that have helped us to get to some of the site acquisition that we have experienced to date. So I'm going to hand this podium to Erica Brandt, who's going to update you on a couple of the projects that Housing and Neighborhoods is taking the lead on.
Thank you, Tansy. Erica Brandt with Housing and Neighborhoods. So first we're going to talk about Duplex Village, which is a site that was purchased by the city in 2021. So shortly after the Equitable Development Around Transit Guidebook was published. This site is about 3.5 acres that's owned by the city, and it's right off of New Bern Avenue, and there's some sites on Hawkins and Rush Street as well. You can see on the map here, the green area is the city property, except for that little blue carve out that is still owned by a private entity. And then the site on the western half of the property, it's about 6.5 acres, is owned by a private owner. So there's a little timeline projection at the top of this slide here. You can see that this year we've been working on demolition as well as starting on some community engagement efforts. And we'll be continuing that work as well as bid preparation and developer selection into the next year. And then we anticipate in 2025 and 2026 to move into a site design phase as well as permitting, and hopefully construction will be able to begin in 2026. And you can see here on the map for context that the DMV site is just a little over a half mile to the west. And this site is immediately adjacent to Milner Commons, which is an affordable rental development project that was recently completed. So some key updates for this project. Demolition, the process of getting to demolition took a little while. It was an occupied site originally, so the city facilitated relocation for all of the tenants and made sure everybody had a good place to go before anything was done. The demolition process started last year, and we completed the first 2 phases this summer, phase 1 and 2. And then the final phase we've got the bid out, we've got the contractor started working in mid-September here, and then we anticipate they will be finishing that work in December. We also began our community engagement this year. At the DMV kickoff meeting, we had staff available to talk about the Duplex Village project and get some community feedback and kind of sow the seed for future engagement efforts. And we plan to continue that community engagement work for the remainder of the year and into the next year. And then we're anticipating coming back to council in the next month or so to authorize an RFP for this site. We're going to be seeking a development partner. Hopefully, in parallel, staff will continue to work on site due diligence and analysis on what can be built while we're soliciting a development partner to work with us. And you'll see on that prior slide, it kind of outlines a possible street closure that was contemplated originally when the site was purchased, and so we'll be working through that as well to see what the possibilities are there. And then the next project I'm going to give a quick update on is the Zach's Grocery Mart site. The addresses are listed above. This is also on New Bern Right, just a block or two to the west of the Duplex Village site. You might recall we came before you all in 2023 to ask for your permission to purchase this site. It is in the East College Park neighborhood. It's on the very southeast corner of that neighborhood. So it was sort of contemplated originally as part of that neighborhood revitalization strategy plan. And when the opportunity arose, we definitely wanted to move forward with it. So this map here, you can see the Zach's Grocery site are the 4 parcels at the very bottom of this map. In total, it's about a little over an acre in those 4 parcels, but the green pieces of the map here show all of the other pieces of city property that are owned around Zach's Grocery. So in total, city property is about 2.5 acres. So there's an opportunity here potentially for a recombination and potentially realigning that Boyer Street kind of funky elbow curve there to kind of square it off and do a larger development on that squared off site. So we're in the process now of demolition. That began in the spring. It is an old gas station, so there was a lot of work that had to be done on the environmental side to make sure that things were set for demolition, and that has taken a little while, but it's underway now. We're hoping to begin on the community engagement piece early next year, as well as putting together a solicitation to select a developer and begin that kind of due diligence, site design and planning. And then hopefully on a similar timeline with Duplex Village construction, we'll be able to begin in 2026. So some key timelines here, the sites that were acquired for Zach's Grocery, this happened in 2023, and those are the other adjacent sites that are listed, the addresses there. The demolition is going to start in October. We're hoping it will be completed by the end of the year, and then that will set us up to begin community engagement in the beginning of next year. And with that, I will pass it back to Tansy.
We are at former DMV headquarters that is now a city-owned property, and we're really excited today. Not only is it a beautiful day, but we are getting some great ideas for what we might put on this site.
Some of the feedback we've been getting is that they want to see affordable housing. That's the highest priority probably from what we've been getting back. As you can see on the board behind me, we've gotten some other feedback.
It's a large space. There's so many different things. We can see it being affordable housing. We can make it be a community center, just something for mental health related.
We're really out here just trying to hear what community members want this space to turn out to be. But we really value community engagement and would love community members to come out and speak to us and give us their great feedback.
The Office of Community Engagement has done a fantastic job of engaging citizens and residents in a real serious, participatory, and inclusive way.
They should give like a vocational school within the high school, and in that way they leave with a trade and a high school diploma.
It's been an amazing turnout. It's so exciting to see so much community engagement for a project that's going to be so impactful to this area.
We had a lot of members come out and really share the ideas of what they would like to have on New Bern Ave. So we're really excited and look forward to the future of shaping the former DMV site.
Okay, well, actually, Taisha was going to introduce that slide. So that was a bit of a surprise, but I think it works out for the best because I can recognize Taisha. She wouldn't have recognized herself. She certainly would have recognized her team. She's going to talk once I wrap up in greater detail about our engagement efforts. But I do want to thank both the community engagement team and lots of departments around the city that made that event really special and successful. I also want to thank Councilmember Branch and the mayor for speaking that day, and know that both Councilmember Fort and Councilmember Patton were able to join us, and I think the rest of you were there with us in spirit supporting. So just some key updates on the DMV headquarters site. So as everybody knows, we closed on the property in June, which was a long time in the coming. So the City Council, you committed $20 million for the acquisition of that site. We're beginning really hard work to get the site stabilized and move towards abatement and demolition. Do want to thank Parks and Recreation and Engineering Services for some overdue TLC to the site. It had been neglected to some degree under the care of NCDOT as they are moved off of the site. So we have already done some site stabilization, removed some vegetation, did some cleanup, some of that. We have moved to do some additional fencing in some targeted areas on the site and some additional building stabilization just so that we can make sure that it continues to be a safe, secure structure until we can get it demolished. The abatement and design for the design for the abatement and demolition is under contract and underway. We hope to have that wrapped up soon. So initially, you allocated $3 million for the abatement and the demolition. We did through some refinement, working with the contractor, in the cleanup of last year's budget, we allocated $1 million. So we've got $4 million to try to get the site stabilized. We did identify that there are some materials in the building that need to be remediated and an underground tank. We will work on some communication with the public. Some of that will be visible. The building will have some cladding and other kinds of things to make sure that we're responsible in the abatement of that facility. And that should begin this fall. And so people will start to see activity at that. That could take up to 6 months to get all of the abatement activities complete. And we hope that demolition will be completed by early next summer. So I'm going to pass it off to Taisha, and she's going to talk more about community engagement and some of the interim activation that we're looking at.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Taisha Mosley with the Office of Community Engagement. I think Tansey's introduction of the video was way better because you were all caught off guard. So thank you, Tansey, for that. So quickly, I will share some information with you to the point around community engagement at the site. So this is a photo of most of our project working group members. You may recall that we came to you back in January or February asking for the opportunity to create a project working group to help advise the community engagement. We had 91 applications and we ended up selecting 12 members to serve as a part of that. They do meet every second Thursday of the month, so their meeting will be this Thursday at Martin Street Baptist Church from 6 to 7:30. You are more than welcome to come. So far, they've had 4 meetings. We had an orientation. We have several city departments who support this group. It's not just the Office of Community Engagement, it's the city manager's office, housing, planning, engineering services. And I probably shouldn't have named names because I forgot someone, but many departments come to support the groups on a monthly basis. We've conducted vision planning, engagement planning. We've talked about city priorities for the site as well as community and project working group priorities. Some of the feedback or all of the feedback that we received from that video that you just saw will be presented to the group on Thursday. And so at that kickoff event, again, want to thank everyone for supporting us and getting that off the ground and all the city departments that were there as well. We did about 500 door hangers. We did tons of flyers, yard signs. We sent out a newsletter, some social media, and then we utilized our community connectors to help us get the word out about it. And I think one thing that was missing there was that we also used the radio. I was driving one day and heard it myself. So we did a lot of outreach to make sure we got the word out. We had over 300 people attend. We received 469 ideas, and that there were 6 city projects who were represented that day. So let's talk a little bit. So the theme was I want to have on New Bern Ave. So you'll see 6 themes here: affordable housing, community spaces and recreation, shopping and entertainment, food and markets, health, social services, education and training. And I'm going to break that down for you. So around affordable housing, you see here on the slide, I'll just read a couple of bullets. Folks were looking for rental housing for teachers, affordable rental units that with eligibility requirements in the community space and the recreation space. There were tons of sticky notes about parks with kid-friendly amenities, meeting spaces for community groups and neighborhoods. And when we hear that, we often ask the question, well, we do have community centers, but people are looking for something that's a little bit larger than a community center space, but not quite the convention center. So a larger gathering space is what we heard. In shopping entertainment, family-friendly entertainment, retail use space that celebrates Black culture in its design, or something similar to a neighborhood museum to help celebrate the area's history. A grocery store, a lot of people talking about a food desert in the area. Farmers market came up with healthy food options. In the health and social services space, we received feedback about transitional housing, pay what you can, affordable childcare options that also have after-school resources is what we heard, education and training, self-defense, teaching, vocational school for people to build trades. And again, this is not all 469 comments, but we did our best to try to give you a summary of that. We are going to continue engagement on the site. We're setting up on-site office hours around the abatement schedule and kind of using satellite locations or locations that are close to the site. We're identifying some more temporary activation events with our project working group. And if someone wants to send feedback right now, they can utilize the email address on the screen, community.engagement@raleighnc.gov, to send their ideas that way. And with that, I will join my colleagues in taking any questions that you have.
Taisha, I just wanted to bring up something that we talked about that day, and members of the committee did too. We have to be careful not to duplicate services. And when we went to the Mayor's Institute on City Design, the one thing they told us, we have to look up. Mm-hmm. We can't just look at that one site. You've got Tarboro Road across the street. How does that complement this? Down the road, you've got Explorus, where they've said they're going to put a grocery store and affordable housing. We don't have anything for Zaxjet or Duplex Village, but certainly right down the road, too, we have brand new senior affordable housing at Milner, which was a result of DHIC and the church donating that property. It looks beautiful. So we've got to look up as well, and I like some of the ideas. They were a few of them were really clever, and especially you could see they were written in kids' handwriting, and that made it fun. But I just want to say we did talk about it that day, that we've got to look up higher at the whole like area.
Yeah, we did, and that's a constant conversation that's had amongst the project working group members. Like you
Right.
stated, someone shared that day the importance of understanding what else is happening in the area, what else is planned to be in the area. And I would be remiss if I did not mention I believe his name was Kevin. He told me that he wanted a museum with a lot of art and free housing on the site, and I told him that I would share that. So there we go.
Well, it's done then. Let's go to market.
Councilmember Branch?
Definitely, thank you for the information, all of it. I have a couple questions on two other parts. For Duplex Village, for the RFP that's going out, or has the RFP itself been drafted? No, not yet. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind in the drafting of the RFP is, figuring out number of units and the percentage of mixed income, the breakdown of that. That's very important because we want to definitely look at our low income, but we also have a lot of people who make too much to qualify for vouchers but still need a place to stay, and they're not making six figures. So that's one part I want to bring up for Duplex Village. For Zach's Grocery, I saw the street connection, and I saw on the map, the comment that I heard was everything in green the city owns. But the street that is proposed to go through looks like it may go through property that the city doesn't own, as well as I think those dwellings are currently occupied. I want us to be very careful and not pushing someone out that's currently in a affordable home just for this street connection. So especially right here. So if we can just make sure transportation looks at that at all options and not just, I know straight is the best, but it's not always right. So if we can just look at all options as far as that corridor and using our current property. Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Patton?
Yeah, Erica, sorry, I should have got you before you sat down. I know these RFPs are not on the street yet. Do you have a loose estimation of how many units might go on both Duplex Village and Zach's site?
Don't think we're quite there yet. Correct me if I'm wrong, CJ. Yeah, I don't think we're quite there yet. We're working with the Urban Projects Group in planning to try to do some of that modeling to figure it out. And, to Councilmember Branch's point, at least on this site, it is going to kind of depend what that final configuration looks like. So I think we're going to try to figure out what is the appropriate level of clarity to get on what the site will look like before putting an RFP out, or if maybe there are some questions that will stay unanswered before it goes out and be worked through with the selected developer. But yeah, hopefully we'll know more in the next month or two about how many units, certainly on the Duplex Village site, we could anticipate.
Okay. And do you have any clarity on whether there'll be ownership or rental? You think there'll be rental?
They'll probably be rental. I think that's the plan. But to the other comment, we are looking at models potentially outside of the tax credit model to allow mixed income.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I think all of the plans we have for the future of this corridor on the city-owned lots are really exciting, and I know they're going to take a little bit of time. Obviously, we have to put it out for proposals. I have heard some concerns from some folks about what we're going to do with the properties in the meantime. How are they going to be maintained? Obviously, we're planning to demolish the existing Zach's Grocery. I think that would be an improvement for nearby residents because its current state is pretty run down. But I just want to make sure that we are investing at least in mowing the grass or in some way making it seem like kept up. Yeah. I mean, if there's a way to make it look nicer in the interim, maybe better. I just I know it's going to take a little while, and I hope it doesn't take us a long time to move on these sites. So I just want to make sure that this area doesn't fall into a state of disrepair in the interim.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, and there have been, particularly on the DMV, which is a very large, significant site, and has become also a little bit blighted over time. So, community engagement has already shared some depictions with the project working group of some, as part of interim activation, some opportunities for some art. There is some limitation as we do the demolition and abatement activity in terms of making sure that we don't introduce any complexity or hazards into that. But currently, Parks has added the DMV site to its crew's responsibility. So they're doing normal check-ins there. And very much our aspiration is once we get the site stabilized and cleared, the goal is to work, and Taisha can share more over time, to look at opportunities to actually reclaim the site and create opportunities for people to engage in positive ways with the site while it's waiting for redevelopment. So we share the concern that it feels like a positive place and that positive momentum is building on the site.
Yeah, and I've actually heard more concerns about the exact grocery site. And it may just be because that's in a more advanced state of sitting there than the DMV site. So it would be good to preemptively prevent the DMV site to getting to that state. But I do think we need to make sure that we're doing something to maintain the Zach's grocery site until it's ready for development.
Great. We'll follow back up just in terms of what the current and then future possible opportunities are.
So one thing I just want to say as a word of caution, please do not get overly prescriptive in the RFP. We did not with Moore Square. We got more affordable housing than we thought, and we got some big ideas that we never would have came up with ourselves. So let's make sure that we're letting people bring their best ideas. I also want to explore the option of using some of the alternate funding that we talked about at the Affordable Housing Conference that you pulled together. The model that we saw, which was, affordable, but also we had mixed income. And I mean, a lot of that has to do with financing. We don't want to be so prescriptive too that we basically make it impossible for somebody to finance this. So just some words of caution, but words of wisdom as well. We've seen how it can work, and it can work well.
Yeah, and I think we talked about the redevelopment 101 that we did with a project working group, and there have been many conversations with the project working group about being focused on our values and priorities for the site, but knowing that those might manifest in multiple different ways in the solicitation process. So I think there's good, healthy discussion and understanding about the trade-offs of if we get a lot of specificity into the RFP, that could have unintended consequences in limiting opportunities.
Okay, any other questions? Councilmember Patton?
Yeah. Sorry if you shared this timeline on the DMV site. How is the flow of the project working group going to go similarly to like a CAG for a park? Like there'll be like a year of public engagement and then a round of approvals, or kind of what's the flow there?
Yeah, so the project working group has worked on a charter and a general meeting timeline. I think that timeline is anticipated that they would work through the first quarter of next year. At that point, they would come back and share a report on some of the key recommendations and priorities for the site. Those things then would be pulled in and reflected in the request for proposal. We have talked about some ongoing roles for members of the project working group. So I know that the project working group is very interested in we'll do a solicitation meeting before at some point in the RFP process. So we have committed to having voices from the project working group, sharing with potential proposers about some of the key goals and hear from the community about that. And then certainly we've committed to closing the loop at different points along the process, so that they have a continuity of communication as future decisions come before the council.
Okay, any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much for that update. Really important work, and it's going to reimagine this whole corridor. It's going to be amazing. So thank you. With that, I will adjourn our work session. We'll be back at 7 o'clock. Thank you.